Welcome, everybody, to episode 15 of the Golden Squeeze podcast. We've made it this far. Let's just keep this going. We are talking about SmackDown and night one of the WWE draft. How'd we do? How did we do with our predictions? Let's find out. It started off with a contract signing between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. I don't think I realized that Cody, and we might have talked about this before, but Cody and AJ have never fought before. So this will be a one-of-one for them, and it's almost assuredly going to be a very good match, as AJ Styles is probably one of the top two workers in the company. Uh, Contract signings are pretty much always just standard fare, not really much that goes on at them. They normally result in some sort of physical confrontation, which between the two contract signees, but that did not happen here. Anything that stood out to you at this contract signing?
I like the part Cody said, even though familiarity with my last name, once Cody is put in front of it, we don't, share anything and this and that. And, it was good. But yeah, again, like you said, just pretty standard. And God, I can't stand AJ Styles' new music. I just got to put that out there.
It's terrible. Any music that wasn't created by Jim Johnson is complete trash. That's just the way it is, unless it's done by some sort of outside artist. But this new guy, he's getting ripped all over the internet. The guy that's doing all their music now.
I don't agree with that, because I believe he did Romans, and the Romans is amazing.
Did he do Romans?
I'm pretty sure Romans, at least on my iTunes, it says Def Rebel. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, outside of Roman, I actually kind of like Legado del Fantasma's theme song as well. I don't know why, because it's pretty basic, but yeah, whatever he did with AJ Styles, that needs to go back in drafts, because I prefer his original theme song.
Yeah, but I mean, again, this is one of those things, especially now. I gotta think Styles had to have some sort of say in this, and he went along with it. So, but it's just, I do not like it at all, at all.
I could see AJ Styles just saying, "I don't care, just do whatever music you want." I mean, look at his hair. You think he cares about stuff like that?
His hair is lovely, and those perfect long locks, and he's very fortunate, man, in his 40s to still have hair like that.
That's true. He is definitely not follically challenged, but I think the word that you're looking for is his hair is phenomenal.
Yeah, I see what you did there. Very good.
All right, and then we got the first picks in the draft. SmackDown was up first, and they chose Bianca Belair. That was a very surprising choice to me for the first overall pick. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, because she is one of the leaders of the women's division. Would it have been my first pick? No, because my first pick was Drew McIntyre in our mock draft. And I don't think that Bianca Belair was chosen until well down the road. But it's a little odd to me. If you're going to take a female wrestler first, fine. But as long as Mommy's still out there, I think you got to take Mommy first, or Charlotte Flair first. But you want to take Bianca first? Okay. That's a choice. Normally, it doesn't really mean much when we're talking about these WWE drafts, but it was just interesting that that's what they went with.
Confused, apparently, leading into this. I knew who was eligible, because that had made the rounds, but I didn't know that certain superstars were only eligible for either one night or the other. That I was unaware of.
What do you mean?
Like, Drew McIntyre was not eligible for... He didn't get picked, correct?
He has not been picked.
Yeah, okay. Then he was not eligible to be picked on Friday.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't either because I was so confused, and something I'm still confused about, and we'll probably talk more about this too. But NXT champions protected or not, or do we know?
I don't. I don't think we know. I would
Okay,
assume.
because if they're not, um, Kiana James getting picked before Roxanne Perez is ludicrous.
Well, they said all champions were protected, but then
Okay, well, they made that clear, and they made it clear ahead of the show that was in regards to NXT. I mean, I'm sorry, SmackDown and
in
Raw,
Raw,
but
yeah,
it was still kind of a little bit vague. And then that, I mean, we can get to all that with NXT, but I'm just confused. I didn't know that only certain wrestlers were available on certain nights, and but especially with that said, with the pool being narrowed down, yeah, I was surprised. But then again, also, Paul Heyman made that announcement in a backstage interview saying that Roman Reigns had withdrawn his name from the draft.
mm-hmm.
So he was off the table immediately. And so I was like, well, there goes my number one pick from our predictions. But um, and they did do the whole take all the factions, every member of the factions. They did do that apparently because they ended up doing it with the Bloodline. They did it with Alpha Academy. I feel like there was maybe one more that I'm missing,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe not. But I know for sure those two factions are all together. But
Yeah,
with that said, with the champions protected and it being a limited pool, I I don't really have an issue with Bianca being the first pick because she's great. She's she's extremely popular, and but there are some minor gripes I have from a logical standpoint of where some of the picks went and who they were. But my biggest gripe with the whole thing is not not many people left what show they were on,
yeah,
except Braun Breaker.
yeah.
That at least that's the only one I can really think of that
Well,
switched.
in that first round, we got Jay staying. Oh, we got Jay
Bianca
on Raw.
staying,
We got Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown.
and
We
he was
got
already. Are
yeah,
they
he was.
counting that as a NXT call up because he was already wrestling on there? He
Yeah,
had
but
already
he
wrestled a
hadn't
few
wrestled in
matches
like,
on SmackDown.
but it had been like 2 months. I think it was February was the last time that he had fought on SmackDown.
Okay.
But uh, then we got Seth on Raw, so that did not change. That was the first round. So Bianca and Carmelo on SmackDown, and Jay and Seth on Raw. Carmelo Hayes being the second pick in the draft, also another interesting choice. It's fine, I guess, but it's just a interesting decision. I would not have taken Carmelo Hayes second as my second pick, but there's so many hidden stipulations about who you can and cannot pick that.
Oh yeah, and because my thought was okay going with a if you're going with a SmackDown guy first, and again, I understand that there's a business aspect to it and all that, but I guess my first thought was okay, the first SmackDown guy taken if champions are protected is it Dragunov?
Yeah,
And then same when it came later. Well, I mean, we can get to that. I mean, I didn't have too much of an issue with that. I mean, I know you think he's undersized, but I think Carmelo Anthony's going to do fine.
Carmelo Anthony. I think you mean Carmelo Hayes
Oh
there, Wade.
gosh, jeez, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Carmelo
well,
Anthony did end up doing fine for himself.
yes,
A
you know,
future
I'm
Hall of
sorry.
Famer.
His name is Carmelo, and he has moves like nothing but net and all that. Yeah, I guess. And I'm sorry, I'm feeling a bit under the weather today too, and so yeah, my apologies. But yes, Carmelo Hayes, sincerest apologies. There could be worse people I could have gotten her name wrong with. I love Carmelo Anthony, but um, from your neck of the woods too, co-host.
Yep.
But um, uh, yeah, I was just kind of surprised that there wasn't a major jumping of shows in one of these first few picks.
Yeah.
And again, maybe had Melo not within the past few months multiple times on SmackDown, it would have been a little bit more of a big deal to me. But he was already there,
Yeah.
to a degree. But
yeah.
Yeah, just a little. I mean, and again, kind of the same feeling I got about the Raw after Mania. A little, not that anything was bad about who came out and that they're not going to be stars, but it wasn't it just wasn't what I was expecting, I guess, and neither was this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the draft's always. There's an anticipation for the draft, and there's normally a letdown in these WWE drafts because they have the draft, and everything that surrounds the draft on the episode is normally not very good. But I would say, yeah, it's necessary. I don't think it is, for being honest, but it gives us something to talk about. And something else to talk about was Carmelo Hayes saying he wants a piece of Cody Rhodes. That's interesting. Another interesting decision by WWE. Cody accepted the proposal of Carmelo, and I don't think it's bad losing to Cody in a match if you perform well. I don't think it's the same as Shinsuke losing it week after week after week if you take on the champion. It's similar to what they did with Javon Evans against Dragunov. He challenged him and he got his match and he looked good and lost. So sometimes the loss is okay. Not always, not normally, but sometimes.
Yeah, and it's just and I guess for me too, and I know this is nitpicking, but Melo lost his last 3 at least matches, I believe, in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
He lost to Trick both times, and he lost to the Don. Now, granted, they could say, "Oh, the distraction from the Don," but he was pinned. He was pinned all 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and so, and I would have had no problem with him coming in and taking this loss, coming off of that feud with Trick. But when I don't know, just when there's like 3 losses leading into this, and then when the crowd was yelling, "Whoop that Trick," he's like, "Oh, I already did that." No, you didn't. You lost twice, and I mean, yes, I know. Oh, he put on a good match. He hung in there with the champ, but I mean, I think anybody who's seen him wrestle knows he can hang with anybody in the ring. And I just, I don't know. I don't like you're making such a big deal about that guy coming in. And see, and that's the difference too. This wasn't the case where who we were just talking about Edwards.
Javon Evans.
Yeah, where Javon Evans came in as a new guy trying to, stake a claim and, get a win over the champion, like we said before. Cena coming in, not known at the time, challenging Angle. This is somebody already established who was an NXT champion, who they made the top pick and or one of the top picks in the draft for their brand, and you have them lose. I mean, yes, it was I enjoyed the match a lot, but again, that's just me personally. I don't like to see that when it's somebody who's already established.
But he's established to people who watch NXT. There's a large contingent of
I
wrestling
know,
fans who
I
don't
know.
watch NXT and don't know much about Carmelo Hayes. If not for me trying to learn more about NXT, I'm a main brand guy. I know the guys in the main
I know.
brand, and I know that he exists. But prior to a few weeks ago, I couldn't tell you what his wrestling style was or what he did or anything about him. So when you say they're
That's
established,
fair.
they're
That's a
they're
fair
not
point.
established to the casual fan, and they're not established to the fan who only watches Raw and SmackDown. So,
That's
but
fair.
now
That's
he
fair.
is. Now he is. So I'm not too upset about that. But what came up next was Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio versus Angel Umberto, and this storyline with these two teams, I'm done with it. I don't need it
Well,
anymore.
well, it's going
I'm
to keep
done.
going because of who got drafted there later on. We know this is going to continue.
No, I understand it's going to continue. I just wish it wouldn't. I wanted to stop. Now we got this whole mess with Carlito, and now Carlito is attacking Dragon Lee backstage, and
I
I'm sure
think we,
that'll get
I think
addressed
we
more.
saw.
Huh?
I think we kind of saw that one coming.
Yeah, that's fine, but like it's just they had Andrade do it. Now they have him do it. We don't need it anymore. Probably Ray is going to turn at some point in time. It's just Dragon Lee will go to the other side. By the end of this, they'll be in the other faction. Everyone that was in one will be in the other. I don't really need it anymore. The Dragon Lee match was, or the way it started, I guess, was, I mean, it was fine. But this Carlito nonsense, we'll see where they go with this. On Sunday, I'm sorry, on Friday, I'm sure they'll give more insight as to why he would have done something like this, and he'll give some stupid explanation as to why he had to do this. And
Oh, I think we know why it ended up backfiring. He
yeah,
wanted the spot in Mania, and then Ray ended up picking Andrade instead of him. And anyways, man, and just one more thing on my end, Angel and Umberto, my God, that's a good tag team.
they're good wrestlers.
Oh man, that they're good, and normally I'm not too keen on guys who are single stars and trying to give them something to do and pair them as a tag team.
Well, we're using that term "stars" loosely, but okay, go on.
Well, anyways,
Singles wrestlers,
singles competitors, is that better?
there, I like that better.
But but man, they're very very good tag team, and I always enjoy watching them. So
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I hate too. It's like, golly, when's a storyline gonna end or progress to something new challengers for them? But it's like I gripe about that, but I can't take my eyes off the product being sold inside the ring because it's that good. Those guys are
yeah,
good. But
yeah, they are. They are. I'm not going to take anything away from them in that sense, but I just don't need this. It just WWE now has a knack of, in my opinion, dragging things on a little too long. Whereas under the old regime, everything ended too quickly. So they need to find that happy medium between the two, because this has gone on way too long, in my opinion. But next
no,
up,
I agree.
we got a good old fashioned squash match. Braun Breaker back on WWE television on the main roster. He had been away from the main roster for a few weeks, and before he was facing jobbers. Now they put him against Cedric Alexander, who I'd argue is a glorified jobber, but he's not, I guess, the jobber in the traditional sense. He's just someone who they never have win, kind of like Solo. But he hit the spear on Cedric Alexander, and it was a devastating spear. You can tell that he was a collegiate athlete and played college football by the way that he delivers that spear. And I think it's a great spear. I think it's one of the better ones that there has been. We know there have been some bad spears out there, but he beats Cedric in less than 30 seconds. And obviously that's a choice. It's time to take off the training the training wheels and fight somebody real who's going to allow him to showcase his many in-ring abilities, because I'm tired of seeing him squash people. I've never been a big fan of a squash match. I know it makes people look powerful. I know they normally used to utilize them with bigger guys to beat up devastatingly beat up the local talents, but I just don't need a squash match. I want to see a nice, good old-fashioned wrestling match. But what say you?
Same, and what made it even more kind of crazy to me was that Cedric Alexander got picked in the draft later that night.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so you have a guy get drafted who hasn't been on TV that much, and then you just have him get squashed. Again, there's some things about it I guess I just don't understand. Like when it comes to the draft and exactly who was available or not available, what nights. I didn't understand why they would do that.
Yeah.
Squash somebody who was going to get drafted later that night. Like you said, they could have found somebody else to do that. And I just don't think that was necessary at all. And, but probably be Breaker's, maybe depending if he shows up Friday, but he's going to be wrestling on Monday nights now. So,
yeah,
very interesting possibilities there. Well, I say that we still got to see who gets drafted where come Fridays, but one match I'm thinking in my head, I would like to see him, and for sure would be him versus Bronson Reed. Would be a match I would like to see those two.
That'll be a fun match. That'll be a fun match. The question is, I felt like they might be trying to build something with Bronson, and if they were to fight, they can't have Braun lose. They can't have Braun lose. So then it's a situation where we're getting him back in Jobberville, and I don't know if I want that. I'd like to see them fight at some point, but once they've established Bronson Reed a little bit more, because they got something going for him. I think that they're trying to showcase him a little bit more. They're giving him some backstage activity. He's starting to do better in the ring. So
he looks good in those suits too, man. I gotta say, they always put him in good suits.
Yeah, they do. They do. Him and Solo get to wear the good suits now.
The best men's warehouse has to offer.
Yeah. No, they saved the best for Michael Cole. But then we got 4 new picks, and they were presented by Michelle McCool, or Mrs. Mean Mark, and Tori Wilson. SmackDown got Randall Keith Orton and Nia Jax, and Raw got Braun Breaker and Liv Morgan. So obviously I don't know. Are they coordinating men and women? I guess not. I guess after Bianca got drafted,
I don't think so.
Yeah, there wasn't a woman that was drafted, but we did get 3 females in this round and 2 males, and good for Raw for picking up Braun Breaker, who's uber talented, and Liv Morgan, who's also uber talented. And SmackDown got Randy Orton, who is uber talented but old, and Nia Jax, who is ever improving, in my opinion. So, good picks all around.
They're going to have to be extra cautious though with how they booked her. She hasn't been winning in the feuds on Raw, and but now on SmackDown, it is Tiffy time. It is. It's Tiffy time. But I know Bailey's going to be probably champ for at least a little bit longer, and I just, I just hope they don't do like they did to Nia on Raw, where they have her look like this unstoppable monster just for her to ultimately lose the feud.
Yeah,
I think she's put in the work. They need to. She needs to have some sort of title reign sooner rather than later.
yeah,
And it's going to have to be sooner, or else they can't just keep having her lose, or else the believability kind of goes by the wayside, even though it shouldn't. But I mean, and again, I could gripe all day about some of the moves that she has used that they have allowed these much smaller women to kick out of. It is just ludicrous, man. And I'm just afraid that they're going to end up doing the same thing on SmackDown. I say that depending on who goes where.
yeah.
But do you? I know obviously Bailey's not going anywhere right now. Do you think Tiffy time or Naomi's going to Raw?
Well, one thing that we do know is that Bianca is on SmackDown.
Yes.
And I bring that up because right now her and Jade and
Jade's staying.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you, but Bianca's there, Jade's there, so they're going to keep Naomi there too. So I think that Naomi for right now is probably going to stay on SmackDown. And where's Jay? He went to Raw.
Yeah, he's still on Raw. He stayed at Raw.
Is she married to Jay or Jimmy?
I honestly I can't remember.
I've forgotten. Because I feel like they've been with the company long enough where they might want to keep them together. Naomi, WWE.
I feel like it's Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Jimmy. And was Jimmy drafted? Jimmy wasn't drafted
No,
yet.
they're saying he is also one that's not eligible right now because of, they say, due to injury, and they haven't. And apparently it's unknown whether it's something legit and they did the angle they did to write him off of television for a while, or if it's just complete storyline injury. They haven't. I don't think it's publicly known yet.
Well, the Usos aren't going to stay broken up forever. They're going to get back together and they're going to be a tag team again at some point, which leads me to believe that Jimmy will also be on Raw. And as a result of which, I'm going to say that I'm immediately changing, and that Naomi will go to Raw. That's what I'm saying. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But speaking of Tiffy and Naomi, they were in the next match, which, well, again, I'm using the term match a little loosely because it didn't really have an end.
Yeah.
And
it's a different person doing it this week.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were fighting, and then Nia Jax attacked Bailey from the crowd, and Naomi tried to help. And at some point in time, Kevin Owens started doing some stuff, and I don't know. It was kind of a mess.
No, that was in a different. I think we're going.
Was it?
That's okay. We get back to that. But since we're here on this match now,
which happened first?
I don't.
I think KO came out first.
But no, let's just stick with Tiffy and Naomi
Okay.
and Bailey for right now, since we've already kind of gone down that way, and Nia interfering. Yeah, Tiffy and Naomi had a number one contenders match um, for Backlash to see who goes against
who's going to fight Bailey.
Yeah, since it yeah, because of what happened last week with Tiffy running in and costing potentially costing Naomi the title. So those two were fighting, and then, like you said, Jax came out from the crowd and beat the crap out of Bailey, who was sitting ringside, and then same visuals last week. Tiffy hit the prettiest moonsault ever on Bailey and Naomi, and took her rightful place as the center of the ring, because she's the center of the universe. And stood tall again. And then later on, it was announced that it'd be Tiffy versus Bailey versus Naomi in a triple threat match for the title at Backlash.
Yeah. And what do you? I know Stone Cold hates triple threat matches. What are your thoughts on triple threat matches?
I think this will be a very good one, and so I am looking forward to it. I thought the triple threat match at Mania was fantastic. I thought it was very well done, and I know there's a few more triple threat matches in recent memory, or well, not recent, but that pop in my head that I thoroughly enjoyed, like Cena. I think it was Cena, Seth Rollins, and Brock had one at Royal Rumble where Seth broke out the Phoenix Splash before Brock came back in and cleaned house. And just I've got no problem with them.
Yeah, they're a good tool to keep people safe and keep them protected, and it allows for other ways to do finishers and not just have to kick out of them, where you could have somebody else interfere, because we know that the WWE loves to have people kick out of everybody's finisher, so triple threats can help protect that, which I do like from that perspective.
Well, I say all that, I forgot one that we saw live. I did not like the ending of that.
Which one?
When Becky used that backslide on Ronda to get the titles. I didn't like that ending at all. I think, especially a moment that big, and I understand to a degree they were trying to protect Ronda still a little bit, but I mean, just have her emphatically pin Charlotte if you want to do that. I thought for the magnitude of that moment in first time the women main event of WrestleMania, and you have a backslide be the end of the match. I don't know. I know I'm digressing big time, but that's one. I think a lot of it has to do with the way the ending is executed.
Yeah.
And but really, as a whole, I don't have an issue with the idea of them. Just like with most, they need to be done properly, especially the execution and all the moving parts where they need to be for the ending, because they usually involve all three in some way, shape, or form. Hear you.
Right around this time was when Solo arrived and had his conversation with Paul Heyman, trying to get brought up to speed on what's going on in the draft. And asthmatic Solo and his silly cadence that he started to develop asked him, what did he say? Well, we got drafted, right? Oh, not exactly Solo. Give me all the details.
So bad.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And I know he's capable. And I don't know if it was written this way or if this is a choice.
It was fine last week. We talked about that, how it seemed a lot more natural, him on the mic last week. And then they go back to that crap.
It's funny. It's funny. And then Tama Tonga comes out, and I'm not going to lie, he's turning into a caricature to me because he's not really like doing anything. And it's, I don't think they're presenting him very well. I think that they're making him look weak, and they need to turn this around quickly. I'm still irritated by how much offense Kevin Owens got in last week. And when they had a confrontation this week, Kevin Owens is still getting in too much offense. He is a new character. You need to flesh him out, make him look strong instead of making him look stupid like they made Solo look for 6 months.
And I feel like too, and I'll have to go back and watch. I could be wrong, but I think there was one part of that segment where one security guard was holding back Tama.
I need 10.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, we've seen these brawls where they're barreling through like 6, 7 people, and you mean to tell me the one security guard could hold this guy back? I don't know, man. But there was it was the Kabuki Warriors that were having a stare down with Cargill and Bianca because in the backstage thing before, it looked like Tama Tonga was about to beat up Paul Heyman or something. And then Kevin Owens attacked him. And then when Cargill and Bianca were having their stare down with the Kabuki Warriors, that's when Owens and Solo that were fighting out to the ring. And then, yeah, that's where that whole thing came. And then Orton made the save.
Right.
And it was announced that a Backlash is going to be Solo and Tama versus Orton and KO. And I think we all know who's going to win that match. At least who should. Solo and Tama. So, but I'm just wondering if that is going to be, because there was speculation that Jacob Fatu was going to debut this week. And since he did not, I'm guessing it's going to happen in France.
Okay.
That's
they're going to debut him on a pay-per-view?
That's my opinion, because
or PLE.
Yeah, there were several things indicating that it could happen as early as night 1 of the draft, and it didn't happen. So I think that would be where will probably take place. Again,
I think you might be right. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the draft on Monday. See everyone got drafted to SmackDown, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we'll go over those picks quickly. Where are we with this one? So we are at the point in time where SmackDown got LA Knight, and they also got the combination of Paul Heyman, Tama Tonga, and Solo Sikoa. And then Raw got Ricochet and Sheamus. I feel like the pick distribution right there is a little lopsided, but
and again, I'm still confused about who was available. But with that said, I don't think unless there was something again that I just didn't hear about, I don't think there were any pick restrictions on NXT. So how is Dragunov not getting drafted? And I'm saying this assuming champions are protected, because if they're not, why is Trick Williams not getting picked?
Yeah.
Why isn't Obafemi not getting picked? I just don't. I don't get it. But apparently there was a lot I missed in who was eligible for what nights.
Yeah. I love Sheamus, but I mean, just going off of what a draft is, I just don't feel like Sheamus would have been drafted that soon. There's just a lot of other names out there, but WWE, like we've said, done a terrible job of explaining everything fully to us. They should have like a list on the TV of all the names that are eligible to pick from.
And they may have at some point, and I very well could have missed it.
But they could make it like the NFL draft and have a ticker at the bottom, have like best available, and have names scrolling across.
Yeah,
and they could make it like a big thing.
That's very true, because I mean they did have the ridiculous war room setup thing that they were doing. And
so if you're going to have a war room, if you're going to embrace the NFL draft, if you're going to piggyback off of the NFL draft that was actually going on at the same time this is going on, then just go all out and do it. Get a ticker. It's easy. It makes the fans understand it better.
I agree.
But I actually do think that they are intentionally trying to make it convoluted, so that they can change things on the fly if necessary and make excuses for certain things happening. So I actually think this is a calculated decision on their end, and I don't blame them for it. Where they can pivot and say, "Oh, this didn't happen because of this," and just make it something up, and we have no way of proving if that's true or not. I mean, that's something WWE would do, and that's what I think they're doing. But the thing that separates them from AEW the most is their production team, and I just think that they have the best production team in the world. They do a great job. They could have done better with the production of this to make it more user friendly, unless, like I said, they're intentionally trying not to. Well, yeah. Then we go to the main event, which we had already touched on at the very beginning, with Carmelo Hayes and Cody Rhodes. Carmelo's talented. What can we say? He's a good wrestler, and Cody is who he is. So I didn't expect it to be anything else other than a good match. And we can argue about whether or not it was the right decision to have this match. Like I said earlier, I think it's a good introduction to the main roster for people who don't follow NXT. Now they know who he is. Now they might be talking about, oh, he almost beat Cody Rhodes. Let's see what he has in store going forward. So I'm actually not. I started off not okay with him fighting Cody Rhodes, but I've talked myself into saying that it was fine. I don't have any problem with the decision anymore, and I think I understand why they made that decision.
Yeah, and I didn't care for it real time, but yeah, after you giving your thoughts and reminding me that not everybody has been exposed to him if they don't, watch NXT. That makes sense. It was a good, or if they didn't see his previous matches on SmackDown, that's fair. So
yeah, and we also got, well, there was some backstage stuff that was going on before this too. They were just trying to pack too much into a short period of time. But there was Karrion Kross and AOP were attacking New Catch Republic backstage.
That was awesome.
There, I thought it was. Well, okay, let's just stick there. Let's just stick there for a second. So, I'm still confused as to what they're doing with AOP.
Oh, I'm confused now too, because I thought they were going back to NXT, but now they're attacking SmackDown, folks. I have no idea what the hell's going on. And then
they're just going everywhere.
And then the way that Karrion Kross said something, I was like, okay, well, I guess they're not going to stay in NXT, but I can't remember exactly what it was he said. But I'm just, I'm confused too, man.
Yeah, and they throughout the whole show, they kept showing the whole NXT roster, like just sitting there watching the draft like idiots. It's just so dumb. But they were excited because in this set of picks, SmackDown got AJ Styles and Andrade, and Raw got Alpha Academy, and they got Kiana James, which was a surprise to me that they would draft Kiana James. It also makes things make even less sense because of the other options that they had at NXT to draft. And no knock against Kiana James at all. But I just find it hard to believe that if this is a draft, that she would be drafted in this spot right here, given who hasn't been drafted yet. So
earlier, and again, we don't know if there's a role in this for who is eligible on what nights and if that extended to NXT as well. But let's assume it did not. How is Lyra Valkyrie not drafted before Kiana James? And I mean, you could even say that about how's JC Jane not drafted before Kiana James? How, and I mean, maybe me being a little biased, but I mean, I've seen them both wrestle. You could make the argument about Thea Hale getting drafted ahead of her. Blair Davenport put on a fantastic showing in that triple threat match with Pop Rocks and Valkyrie. And then again, Dragunov. I mean, Dijak. If all these people were eligible, why not? Why not? And I just don't. I don't get it. But I really, really, really like Kiana James. And I think one of our first episodes, when I was explaining to you or trying to like give a rundown of who had what move set or finishing move, I was talking about one of hers, and I believe she has multiple finishing moves. And I said, hey, I think she's going to be a fantastic wrestler, has that potential. And I still think that. And but I just, again, and without them going into more detail or having more of a panel explaining why they made the picks the way they did, it's like, hey, if you're going to do the war rooms, if you're going to do the showing the people in NXT at the Performance Center, trying to make it like you're looking in somebody's living room when they're there with their family and stuff, or a watch party like they do in the real draft, I agree with you, man. Like, have a ticker going across the bottom of the screen, have correspondents talking to Aldis and Adam Pearce explaining their picks, especially for that Kiana James pick, which I think she's going to do great. But again, with the talent at NXT that was not picked, you're going to have to explain that one to me.
100%. 100%. And maybe they will.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing they won't. I'm guessing they won't. But kudos to you, Kiana James, and you got to talk to the WWE crowd a little bit as you emerged from your seat at the viewing room and the NXT Performance Center. And I'm glad that you made it to the main roster, but I just don't think that it was your time. No knock against you, just not your time. So that wraps up this episode of SmackDown, but now we have the draft coming up on Monday, and there's a lot of names that are still outstanding, but I don't know who counts. I don't know who's eligible. So it's tough to even try to predict who's going to go first on Monday night. Is it going to be Drew McIntyre? Maybe, but at the same time,
contract.
But well, the only thing with that is that if Bianca Belair is first on SmackDown, that just doesn't fit the same mold of Drew McIntyre being first on. Because you could have given me 50 names, I probably wouldn't have said Bianca getting drafted first. As talented as she is, I know I'm hyperbole, but definitely wouldn't have picked her first. Maybe not 50, but definitely not picked her first. So
can you do me a favor? Can you read who got drafted? Can you
one more time?
Yeah, read all of them, including the post SmackDown picks.
So it was Bianca to SmackDown, Jay to Raw, Carmelo to SmackDown, Seth to Raw, Randy to SmackDown, Braun to Raw, Nia to SmackDown, Liv to Raw, LA Knight to SmackDown, Ricochet to Raw, Sikoa, Tonga, and Heyman to SmackDown, Sheamus to Raw, and AJ Styles to SmackDown, Alpha Academy to Raw, Andrade to SmackDown, Kiana James to Raw.
What were the post-episode picks that have been coming in?
I gotta go find those.
Well, I know one of them for a fact. I know Baron Corbin is back on SmackDown.
Yep. And they had a heartbreaking exchange on social media. Him and Braun.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And then we got the OC to SmackDown.
Makes sense.
Baron Corbin to SmackDown. Cedric Alexander and Ashanti the Adonis to SmackDown. Shayna Baszler to Raw. Zoe Stark to Raw. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn to Raw. And Ivar to Raw.
Dude, I like Fire. It's a tag team. Alba Fire. I can't. What was the name she was going by when we saw her?
Something Ray, I think. Kaylee Ray. Kaylee Ray.
Okay, yeah, because she was the NXT UK Women's Champion for a long time. And they just completely botched. They dropped the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's like stateside. But no, I do like that tag team. But again, that's another thing though, man. Like they pretty much everybody stayed in the same spot except for Baron Corbin coming up to SmackDown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Just very, very, very interesting. And yeah, like you said, there's just still okay. Well, okay. Scratch kind of what I was saying earlier. We don't know who's in play, what the rules are. Anybody who's left is in play now because it's the second night, and so I'm just wondering how they're going to do this, dude. Just think of the names that are still left.
CM Punk, Drew McIntyre,
Charlotte,
Charlotte, Ripley, So unless they're just saying they're not taking injured people, but why would you not take an injured person? It doesn't make any sense.
Or Judgment Day. I mean,
they're not dead.
I mean, if they're doing factions, it's going to be the whole Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Well, okay, scratch that. If they're keeping factions intact, then maybe it's just understood that they're staying on Raw since the champions are protected, and Damian Priest is in Judgment Day. Maybe. I don't know. They haven't explained that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's very confusing. But yeah, and I can't stress enough. Kiana James is going to be a future women's champion. No doubt in my mind about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna need some type of explanation to why the backstage writers decided to not have Dragunov, Valkyrie, Dijak, so some of those. There's somebody I'm missing here. Henley. Fallon Henley is one that I don't know what they're doing with her next. The way she lost last Tuesday to the hip check special, I was like, okay, they're writing her off. She's getting drafted. She's a fantastic worker. And she didn't. Mm-hmm. She didn't get picked yet. And I was like, that's what made. I forgot to bring that up earlier. That made the Kiana James pick more baffling to me. It's like Fallon Henley didn't get called up, and I don't know, man. So we'll see, but there's still a lot of a lot of big names out there, and so we'll see. And then, but another thing is, which I wish there were specific guidelines about who's available, who's not. They've been running this advertisement about that next NXT PLE is going to be at the UFC facility in Vegas. Did you see the latest promo for that?
No.
The first person they showed was Dragunov.
Really?
I think, or one of them, either the first or second, prominently featured in there was Dragunov. I was like,
huh.
Okay, so is he staying? And then same with, because they prominently featured him. The Don was prominently featured, and yeah. So I don't know if Dragunov, if he's staying down there or what's going on, but I have no idea. Oh, Gunther, he hasn't been picked yet, so
yeah,
he's got to go. I would not be surprised if that's the first pick.
Yeah, I forgot about Gunther. I could definitely see that being the first pick, and that would be a good first pick.
That very, very justified. If that's the first pick.
Yeah.
So, and I guess the Kabuki Warriors got to be picked. They have to, because they said that team was not protected, so they have to be picked. Now where they go, that'll be interesting. Kairi Sane. But again, do they all get picked together? Well, no. I mean, is is Damage Control all going in the same place, or the Kabuki Warriors, or then they're going to split up Kairi Sane and Dakota Kai, or
I don't know. But where did Isla Dawn go? Where did I say?
I thought you said Raw. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you said SmackDown.
No, it was Raw.
Okay.
So then you would think there aren't that many women's tag teams, so the question is then I think it's odd the first women's tag team to be drafted would be Alba Fire versus Isla Dawn when the champions are available. Another odd move, but
again, I like we've said many times throughout this, we don't know if they were eligible for that first night.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think no.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think, but I don't know. I don't know. Well, we'll get questions answered on Monday, hopefully. I don't actually know if that's accurate or not, but on Monday there should be more clarity as the remainder of the roster should be divvied out amongst the two brands. But that is going to wrap up episode 15 of the Golden Squeeze podcast. If you like what you heard, go ahead and hit that bell icon, like and subscribe, and we will see you when we see you on the Golden Squeeze podcast.